Fernando Alonso is one of the most badass drivers in the entirety of F1. He's a two-time world champion as well as a certified menace to the paddock politics. This man drives like a god, dances like one too, and is for many considered the most skilled driver on the entire grid. And yet, somehow, the eternal rookie of the Formula 1 grid. And we're not talking about a few unlucky races or mechanical failures here. Alonso's career is basically only just heartbreak moments and missed chances. From being stuck in underperforming cars to losing perfect championship opportunities, his career is one of the biggest what-ifs in Formula 1 history. Now, of course, Alonso is currently driving for Aston Martin, aka Green Ferrari, a team that somehow tricked all of us into thinking that they were going to be one of the top 3 contenders in 2023, and is now one of the worst performing teams on the grid. Now, in 2025, 9 races into the season, Alonso has done nothing but emotional cardio. Since after failing to score any points in the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix, and is now driving his worst season since 2001. Yes, you heard me, 2001. The man has been on that grid for so long that his worst season was in 2001. Aston Martin started the season like, yeah, we've got a few upgrades coming, forced Alonso to do a few TikTok dances, and probably allocated all of their budget to marketing. Every weekend, we think maybe this time, and every weekend ends with Alonso in P12, staring into the abyss like a man who just realized he's betting on the wrong horse for 17 years in a row. The Monaco Grand Prix was so disastrous for Alonso because he finished 11, just outside of the points, because of course he did, he's Alonso. And when asked how he feels about it, he didn't blame the car or his own performance, he just smiled, said he's happy if it continues like this and he wins in Australia next year, and said he was looking forward to performing better in 2026. He is so clocked out already to the point that he's just giving up on performing this year, and at this point, Alonso's not even trying to hide the pain anymore. At Imola, he was knocked out in Q1, then spent the race doing what I assume was a live rewatch of his own Wikipedia career record inside of the cockpit, and it was so bad that he even said this on the radio.
It's like luckiest driver in the world.
And as much as fans want to defend his performance, his race record has receipts. And look, if it was a one-time thing, whatever. Bad season, team mess up, it happens. But this man has built an entire legacy of being exactly where you should not be at all times, at the worst possible times ever. So his burst of self-awareness at Imola had nobody defending Alonso anymore. Everyone knows that Alpine is unfortunately dead. But where did this all start? Well, here's the thing. From the moment Fernando Alonso touched his steering wheel, you could tell this guy wasn't like the other karting goblins. It was obvious that he kind of meant business. He wasn't just some fast kid with rich parents and a dream. He was just as determined as a cocked up Roomba trapped in a box, relentless, confused, and somehow still getting shit done. But talent alone does not win you Formula 1 races. It's a little thing called luck, and Alonso was born to be allergic to it. His career is proof that even if you're generationally talented, you can still get stuck in a background character for Michael Schumacher's highlight reel. And of course, his debut was for Minardi, a team that exists purely to get lapped. Think of them as the budget bin of F1. Their car was slow, clunky, and unreliable, just like an imaginary group chat trying to organize an orgy. Imagine Alonso strapped in a car that was basically a clunk go-kart trying to keep up with sleek Ferraris and McLarens. Not exactly a Hollywood debut, but even then, Alonso's talent was clear. He was not just outdriving a car that should have been used for scrap metal, but he was outdriving his teammates, catching the attention of fans and experts, and Alonso squeezed the capabilities out of the Minardi like he owed it money. So he somehow made an absolute shitbox of a car look almost decent. But unfortunately, despite his efforts, the car was about as reliable as a paper umbrella in a torrential downpour. Alonso spent half of his races either chilling in the pits or stranded on the side of a track, which was frustrating because he had the capabilities but just not the right equipment. It's like watching a 5-star chef be stuck in a toaster that keeps burning the bread. At that point, I would just put the fork in the microwave. Fast forward to 2003 and Alonso gets his big break and lands a full-time seat with Renault, a proper team with better resources and a promising fight for near front. But where Alonso goes, the bad luck comes with. Renault's car were improving, sure, but not exactly championship ready yet. And these things broke down at the absolute worst moments. And in Formula 1, it's not just about the driver's skill. The car matters just as much. Alonso had the talent, the skill, the fire, but he was stuck in the machines that somehow decided they'd rather take a nap than race. So this melody of promising results, crushed by machinery failing, became the unofficial theme of Alonso's career. Races where he drove like a man possessed only to end up with a big fat did not finish slap next to his name. This avalanche of bad luck did not just break Alonso's spirit. If anything, actually he came out back after the failure like he was in a revenge arc. It's like he learned to perform in spite of his car failing, and every time the car caught fire, exploded, stalled, or just gave up like a Windows update, Alonso came back. He knew the universe was just big and greedy with blessings, so he squeezed every drop of whatever he could out of the car, even when Renault bolted one together that didn't immediately try to assassinate him on Sunday. Alonso's early career was like watching someone try to run a marathon in flip-flops. His driving had fans and experts thinking this guy would be the next world champion, while the receipts quietly whispered, "Bro, you're doing all this for P7." Being a great in Formula 1 isn't just about speed or talent. It's about timing, politics, mechanical voodoo, and a good old-fashioned luck. And Alonso, he rolled a natural 1 in every single dice check. It wasn't just bad luck, he was foundationally built into a career like expired mayonnaise in a white person salad. But did he give up? No, he doubled down because Alonso doesn't get discouraged. He became vengeful. And then by 2005, Renault's factory finally woke up and delivered him a car that could compete with the big boys, and his talent caught on fire harder than the average Jos Verstappen pit stop. The lucky streak did not come naturally though. No gifts, no blessing, just Alonso white-knuckling his way through mechanical drama and team chaos, even with the World Drivers' Championship on the line. Alonso showed he was built different, and by built different, we mean constructed entirely out of racecraft, drama, and a bitter taste sweet of P4. But through all of the flaming wreckage and team meltdowns, it was obvious this man was destined for greatness. The only thing holding him back was literally everything else. So when Fernando finally showed that he was actually him and finally got his hands on a car that didn't burst into flames the second he looked at it wrong, he went full anime protagonist and won 2 world championships back to back. No filler episodes, just raw talent. And Alonso finally delivered on it. It's like he finally learned how to actually use gym equipment and then immediately became a strongman. In 2005 and 2006, Alonso pulled up, kicked the door in like a paddock owed him money, and made Schumacher look like someone's confused uncle trying to find a reverse button in a modern car. He was young, fearless, and faster than half the grid could mentally process. But even when Fernando was at his absolute best, Alonso's luck was still nowhere to be found. Race weekends were teetering on the edge of disaster like Jenga towers built during an earthquake. And while Alonso was out there clapping cheeks on touching wheels, the universe was still yeeting banana peels at him like it was Mario Kart. Take the 2005 season for example, where Alonso was brilliant and took on heavyweights like Schumacher, but if you look closely, the season was peppered with moments that could have cost Fernando the entire championship. At the British Grand Prix, for example, Alonso was going strong, but minor strategy issues with pit stops caused Montoya to take the win over him. Little setbacks like this are just enough to mess with your flow, like someone hitting pause on your Spotify during a workout. Not enough to kill the win, but enough to piss you off. Then, in 2006, Alonso was in a tight battle with Schumacher, and the tension was thicker than Monaco's humidity. Renault had delivered yet another rocket ship on wheels, but even then, a couple of unlucky pit stops and mechanical gremlins tried to steal the spotlight. At the Hungarian Grand Prix, a poor pit stop strategy saw Alonso lose precious seconds, which cost him the race. It was like Renault were purposely fucking him over, and despite all of this, Alonso kept his cool, drove like a champion, and managed to snatch his second title. And when Alonso drove for McLaren in 2007, he probably had the 3-time world champion merch already printed. But Formula 1, always dramatic even before Drive to Survive aired, had other plans. Alonso was caught in a 3-way title. You had Lewis Hamilton, the other McLaren driver, with the subtle driving style of a sledgehammer. You know, you had Kimi Raikkonen, who looked like he'd rather not be there, but was still performing like crazy, and you had Alonso. And then came the final race. Everything was on the line, the stakes were sky high, and Alonso's luck was damn bad. Ferrari nailed the strategy, and they made a deal with the gods, while Alonso's side looked like they were speedrunning how to ruin a championship. Kimi won, Alonso lost the title by 1 point. That's not a loss, that's a cosmic insult. That's the universe slapping you across the face with a soggy Pirelli and whispering, better luck next time. But don't think it stopped there, because Alonso's switch to Ferrari wasn't just about missing titles. The team that had him beat in 2007 was now serving him failures on a silver plate in 2010. Engine failures, pit stops that were being timed in a sundial, mysterious reliability problems that showed up more consistent than half the midfield. At some point, it started feeling personal, as if the car had a vendetta against him. Alonso was putting in god-tier performances, dragging that glorified piece of farming equipment onto multiple podiums. But despite his efforts, Alonso was always the punchline of the joke. Now, this was the worst year for him to have been racing, especially when he made the decision to join Ferrari. He had went from being stuck in the midfield as a Renault driver, and after the Crashgate scandal, things surely couldn't get worse. Well, it is worse when he realized that he had the perfect chance to join Red Bull during the rise, and instead got sucked into the Ferrari curse. And then there's 2012, a roller coaster of a season, if there was ever one. He was duking it out with Vettel, Hamilton, and a few surprise party crashers who showed up just to ruin his day. Alonso pulled off some crazy drives, like the insane win in Malaysia. After trouble in the practice rounds and in qualifying, qualifying, Alonso clawed his way to victory like a caffeinated teenager in a sim race, and in the end, Alonso finished second in the season, just 3 measly points behind Vettel. And through all of these years, one thing was clear. It wasn't Alonso's skill that was ruining his chances, it was just genuinely his luck. Alonso's bad luck wasn't just on track, but it was also a sitcom of pit stop disasters and car tantrum. He was often told to pit at the absolute worst times, or his car decided to throw a mysterious electrical fit mid-race, crushing his lead in the race, but through all of that, Alonso still kept driving. And in 2023, Ferrari again failed to deliver a car that was able to match the capability of the Red Bull, meaning his career was just kind of stagnant while Vettel was dominating.
But first, join the Discord. That's right, you fuckheads. It's a Discord of all time. And guess what? Now it's even better. This server's got features to positively tickle your fingers. The channels are bust, meet friends, and message in windings. If you don't join this Discord, I'll insult my manager.
You don't want me to insult him, do you?
Oh. Okay then, join the link in the description or pinned comment, or I will use my telepathy to export your testes.
Anyways. Then in 2014, to have one of the most loppy cars on the grid, and this car was straight up a disaster class of engineering, as we had begun to move into the new hybrid era. But surely this can't get worse. Well, rightfully, Alonso got sick of losing and decided to leave Ferrari, just when they start getting good. And suddenly, this was when Vettel decided to go to Ferrari, meaning if he had just stuck to the team for one more season, he could have been the champion again. So where does Alonso go from here? Surely there's nowhere good enough for him that could give him a good car. Well, there's definitely wasn't when he decided in 2015 that was the year for McLaren, who were placing horribly at the time. So when he got into the team, he realized that maybe the Honda engine was underpowered and unreliable. So for the next 4 years, Alonso was given the most horrific years of his career, and they were so bad to the point where Alonso would just park the car once it failed him, grabbed a deck chair, and just sunbathed for the entirety of the race. This was a vicious loop for 4 years till he decided it was time to hang up the helmet for a bit. So much so to the point where he even decided to give up on the chance of driving for Mercedes during 2019 and 2020. Keep in mind, this was some of their most dominant years in the entire sport. And then in 2021, Alonso took a shot in the dark for driving Renault, now rebranded to Alpine, and suddenly rumors started that Fernando was in it for his 3rd title, and Alpine was officially a thing. Alonso came back swinging, and his brakes failed during the season opener in Bahrain. He proceeded to achieve consistent mid-results all season, as if the car was protesting his return. He only achieved 1 podium in Qatar. After the filler season of the 2021 season, people realized Alonso was rolling the dice on the regulation changes of 2022, hoping that Alpine was going to be ahead of the curve and the world championship contender. And his career at Alpine was short-lived. There was one hope that could save Fernando Alonso from certain doom, and that was Aston Martin, a team owned by Canadian billionaire and full-time Nepo daddy Lawrence Stroll, who basically bought a Formula 1 team so his son could play race car professionally. Even though Alonso had lost it, Aston Martin, who had returned to the grid in 2021, had been cosplaying as a moving traffic cone since they joined. Their most notable achievement being a podium achieved by Sebastian Vettel in Azerbaijan. So when Vettel left F1 to go hug trees and Fernando took up the vacancy, fans thought he was insane. But the team had a vision, with a high hopes and a solid marketing team. The expectations for Aston Martin were high, and in 2023, they actually managed to have a decent start. The AMR 23 pulled up like it had swallowed half of a Red Bull design manual, and a 41-year-old Alonso got a podium, finishing a whopping 8 times, 6 times of which were in the first half of the season. For a while, Fernando Alonso was dunking on everyone that wasn't Max Verstappen. He was overtaking, and if he wasn't finishing on podium, he managed to at least be in the top 10 for at least half a season. Fernando managed to push Aston ahead of Mercedes and Ferrari in standings, and it was clear that the fans of Alpine had a good chance of no longer being just a plan. But meanwhile, on the other side of the garage, Lance Stroll was there. Where Alonso was consistently scoring points, Stroll's only chance of being ahead was during the parade lap. To be fair, the kid started the season with a wrist injury, but the season continued, and the only thing that he seemed to be suffering from was mediocrity. And through all of this, Papa Stroll kept the family business going, and if nepotism wasn't a race strategy, Aston Martin could have won 2 world championships already. But all good things must come to an end, and Aston Martin dipped harder than their stock price after a bad performance. Their upgrades barely did what they were supposed to do, and their pace slowly disappeared. The dream of Alpine slowly turned into a delusion, despite Alonso clinging onto the respectable 4th place in the championship standings, above drivers like Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris. So 2024 rolled around, and there was nowhere near as good of a start for Aston Martin as 2023 was. Their car got slow slower, and somehow even less reliable. Alonso started sounding like a broken record in interviews, and it was clear he had become less motivated with every passing race. At this point, you'd think Alonso was addicted to pain. Nowadays, things are so bad to the point that he's yet to land a single point for Aston Martin, even being outdone by his teammate Lance Stroll, the same driver who decided to play human pinball with the other drivers and was in almost every race of last season. Not only is Alonso on the grid, but he's also the manager for another rookie on the grid, Gabriel Bortoleto, a rookie who performed so well in F2 to then have the same curse as his manager, where he decided to go to kick Sauber and finished almost last in every race he physically could. So not only is Alonso cursed, but literally everyone around him. So as we said in Italy, Alonso finally got a semi-decent upgrade courtesy of Adrian Newey. He got super confident, forgot who he was, and then his car proceeded to end itself. But at the end of the day, it's Alonso. We can't say anything bad about him, because although he is the unluckiest driver on the grid, he is still the GOAT of Formula 1.